is such a thing as spring cleaning for the soul. Here with ways to declutter your emotional energy is lifestyle expert Anastasia Turchetta. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me back, Gail.
I love this, spring cleaning the soul. So how do we become emotionally cluttered?
It's amazing what we don't realize, because a lot of times we tell ourselves, oh, I've got a handle on this, but we actually don't, and we're suffocating our peace when we're taking up space in our head. So I look at emotional clutter very similar to hoarding. We're hoarding emotions, we're hoarding things we haven't dealt with. So there's a couple of ways that you can identify whether or not you're going through emotional clutter, because a lot of us might think, I got plenty of space for that, but like our phones and technology, we don't, right?
Right.
So a couple of those, we've got them listed here, would be, you know, the OG, I call it obligation and guilt. Those are the main things I feel that we have for emotional clutter. And when we have that, it's just time to evict that emotional squatter. That's how I look at it. Setting boundaries, toxic relationships, different things like that that you're looking at that you haven't dealt with. And sometimes even you'll numb your behavior. Those behaviors which you spoke, you know, recently with the guest, those behaviors could include anything from alcohol to substance abuse to things that don't serve us, bad habits, for instance.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you talk about that, because we do get stuck in patterns, and it's good to release. Now, what do you do, and I've asked this to one of our other guests today, but what do you do if one of those patterns or those people that keep you in the negative thoughts are still in your life?
That's a great suggestion. So the first thing, you know me, I'm gonna say set those healthy boundaries, but we also need to do a checklist. So there's a lot of techniques, because our emotions, the emotional things that live in our head, if we're hoarding things, that's energy. We need to release that energy somehow. So there's some techniques to be able to do that. First, I'd say is set healthy boundaries, but how do you do that? Where do you know in your life that that's impacting you? Because if it's impacting you, it'll have a ripple effect on, like, your husband Mark, or on your kids, or however that is. So we need to realize what's happening. Make a checklist. So maybe an energy checklist, and what I say is like an energy audit. How much mileage do we have till we run out of fuel, till we're out of capacity? Your question is how do we, you know, release someone in our life? That would be maybe, how much are they draining you? What is the behavior that you find of yourself? Are you a happy person? Are you drained? Are you angry? Are you irritable? What's going on with you when you're around that environment? And that's where you start to set your healthy boundary.
I like that, I like that. You talk about examples of healthy communication. How would you define that?
I set that as healthy boundaries by knowing what you want. So for example, I don't have the emotional capacity for this conversation right now. You don't need to explain why. You just set a boundary for what you're going to do. Or if you want to distance yourself from unhealthy situations, you know, just say, I'm stepping back from the situation right now. It's unhealthy for me, and I can just feel, you know, I feel a little drained. So you don't have to say why, but also realize that no is also a complete statement. So for obligations and guilt, you could say something like, you know, I'm not going to be able to attend that right now, but I'll take a rain check.
I like that.
It's a nice way to say no.
I like that. And these are things that I think a lot of us don't do because we feel the obligation, but setting boundaries, and it's going to make you feel a lot healthier in the long run.
It really does. And for music, that would be another way. If you're wondering, how do I release this? You know what? Listen to music. There's actual studies that help us release the emotional stress that we're under and deal and process with different things like that. So there's always something, but healthy boundaries in the end would be my top pick.
All right, thanks so much, Anastasia. We're going to share this advice on Bloom Tampa Bay, and we'll be back with more Bloom right after this.